everybody, welcome back. Today I'm checking out Moving to the UK exposes what's wrong with American schools. I'm getting this from the Hickson's Diary. The link is in the description below. Please go over and show Mandy some love. We're going to dive right into this one. Let's see what this video is all about. Here we go right about now.
7 specific ways that the U.S. school system functions like a subtle form of indoctrination that I didn't even notice until I moved to the UK. Number 1, the Pledge of Allegiance. This is a big one whenever I talk to British people. And now looking back on it, this is probably the most obvious one as well. But when you're in it, it feels completely normal. I had no problem getting up every morning and pledging my allegiance to a government, a country, and a flag that I thought was the greatest country in the world. Every single morning, hand over heart, make sure it's your right hand, that actually matters, droning on about liberty and justice for all before I've even learned my times tables. It actually reminds me of a comment from @DonsLand1610, who said the amount of brainwashing that goes on in American education system beggars belief. And honestly, when you step outside of the United States bubble, you do actually start to see exactly what they mean. Basically, I figured out that I was just pledging undying loyalty to a government before I'm even old enough to understand what government actually is and what the loyalty I was pledging really means. So in the UK, or probably anywhere else in Europe for that matter, if you suggested that kids would chant a loyalty oath to the state every morning, people would probably look at you like you're trying to start a cult, and rightfully so. At L4NC3_L0T said, as a German, the school Pledge of Allegiance is horrifying given our history. That hits hard. I don't know if it hits you hard, but it hits me very hard. Because context is everything, especially when you go back to the stat that the American Congress officially recognized the pledge in 1942. In America, we frame it as patriotism, but to the rest of the world, and especially places who have seen this blind nationalism and where it leads, it looks terrifying. And now looking at it from the other side, I have to admit, I agree with the terrifying point of view. It's the repetition that gets you. It's definitely indoctrination, in my opinion. It's not about understanding the words, because you can't possibly understand the gravity of the words at such a young age. Now, we recite this in elementary school where we start at like 5 years old and we go into the middle school era at like 11 or 12. Definitely don't have the cognitive reasoning and critical thinking in order to understand what you're actually saying. But it is a ritual that we have to perform every single morning in American schools. I mean, you're 5 years old, you literally just started school, regular school, and you don't even know what the word republic means, and yet you're sitting here saying that you know what indivisible is and that you'll protect against dividing America. I mean, just say it. It doesn't make any sense. But still, we say it every single day. Chris Lynch, also from my previous video, put it very perfectly in the comments, describing the pledge as, quote, like a punch in the face, young adult chanting a cult motto. We have to be fair. That is exactly what it looks like from the outside. I'm even horrified as a parent that my child had to participate in that indoctrination, and I was okay with it for a little while. Now, if you do not want your child to participate in the Pledge of Allegiance because of religious reasons, because there is a line that says under God in there, then you are allowed to petition the principal and the school board in order to have your child exempt from saying it. But you are still obligated to stand up and show respect. And if you are somebody who is opted out due to religious reasons, you're an outcast if you don't do it. You're the problem. There's something wrong with you. And I remember kids getting sent to the principal's office in my school day for sitting it out. That doesn't make any sense. Eventually, by the time I realized what was happening with my child, I got to the point where I told my child, you can stand up if you want to, you can sit down if you want to, we'll deal with whatever the consequences are. And I think she ended up opting for standing up and just not reciting it. But think about it, either way, you're still standing up and listening to it every single day. True. Even if you're not openly repeating it. We're taught that we are the land of the free, yet from the beginning of our schooling, we have this mandatory performance of patriotism at 8 o'clock in the morning. It conditions you, whether you're reciting the words or not, to conflate the country with the government, with the flag, and that patriotism is actually obedient.
Yeah.
The next way I feel like...
Woo! Yep. She hit the nail on the head. It's crazy that it take going out of the US to see it. But then again, I can't say it's crazy because as the bell clock, 8 o'clock, that bell goes off, like I tell you guys, by driving off in the morning after I drop my kids off, you can hear it over the intercom saying, okay, guys, let's get ready. And it's like clockwork 5 days a week. I'm glad she touched on the fact that you can be exempt from saying it, for religious reason wise. And I'm like, okay, because I'll be frank with you. My kids do not. They stand, they don't recite, they don't put their hand over, they don't do it. They stand there as a form of respect. Yeah. I tell them, you stand, you don't need to say anything. You don't need to put your hand over your heart. You don't be disrespectful to, the teachers in the classroom but apart from that, you're not required to, so my kids do not, but she's right. It's been repeated constantly. They hear it. What do 5-year-old from pre-K all the way up? What do they do not understand the words to this play. Not in a million years do they understand any of those words there. And it does seem like a cult when you look at it. You're just standing there, just reciting, and I'm like, okay. And majority of people don't even respect it. It's just, it becomes so normal to them and a part of them that sometimes I don't even know as they get older if they even care, to be honest with you. And I can see why the outside world look at this as, horrifying to indoctrinate the kids like that every morning. I can see that because you're like, based on history, with you think you look at certain things and say, okay, let's not do this or let's not do that. But as she said, we're considered as the land of the free, the greatest country on earth. And I'm telling you, I'm surprised she really spoke about this. I know, Mandy, that you're not living in the US anymore, but a lot of people are afraid to even touch this topic at all, based on the backlash they will get as an American. So kudos to you on that one. Let's hear the next one.
Like United States schools indoctrinate us is the we want it alone history revision.
Oh,
this is primarily about World War II, but it goes to the greatest country in the world, synopsis that they want to push down everybody's throat throughout their life. Basically, if you go through the American school system, you leave believing that the war started in 1941 when Pearl Harbor was bombed. And ended because America swooped in and saved the day as if they're like Superman for the world. The narrative is Europe was falling apart. The United States survived. We beat the Nazis. We beat Japan. And everyone else just kind of supported us. And that is a blatant lie. It's genuinely embarrassing at this point in my life when I look back on it and how little Americans actually know about what happened during World War II.
That is so true.
Especially before America entered the war. At Mel Whiteside 9369 shared a story about a U.S. serviceman who thought only Omaha and Utah beaches existed on D-Day. He literally had no idea that the British and Canadians were even there. That's a failure of education.
Crazy.
Blatant failure of education. Gusting failure of education. Then you're someone like me who moves abroad and actually wants to learn and actually wants to expand and grow. And I find, the Soviet front had a huge part to play in the Allied victory in Europe. You learn that the Soviet Union lost over 20 million people fighting the Nazis. And you realize war had been raging for years before the US got involved, and that the British people, the Isles, pulled off the Nazis single-handedly
for
a very long time. before America came anywhere near it.
Yep.
Helena Greenwood 2305 called the World War II narrative embarrassing, and I completely agree. They pointed out that we conveniently forget about things like U.S. weapons supplies to the wrong side early on.
Ugh.
But in U.S. history books, it's the back-to-back World War champs mentality. We literally saved the world. That's what we're told. That's why we think we're the greatest country in the world. That's why we think we're unbeatable. It's so sad. We're taught that we are the saviors of the modern world, and it completely erases the massive sacrifices of other nations and positions America as the main character of the planet, which I guess if you want to take over the world is the way you're supposed to go, but certainly doesn't necessarily vibe with the whole beacon on a hill and let's spread democracy thought process, does it? It's terrible, but what can I say? American exceptionalism at its best. There's also a huge fear of other systems. The weaponization of words like socialism and communism in American education cannot be ignored from this list at all. We aren't just taught that capitalism is...
So it's crazy to me that it's still being taught to this day, just as she said it, when it comes on to World War II and America. We've won. It was us victorious who saved the world. Don't get me wrong. I'm not here to say that America did not do anything. Don't twist my words. But if you're going to teach history, teach it correctly. That's my 2 cents there. Teach it correctly. Because like she said, it's crazy for me when I heard my kids telling me about what took place in the world and what America did to, and I'm like, not even half of it. And if I wasn't one of those parents who said, okay, let's do some more research, okay, let's look into this, then my kids would be stuck with, oh, we are the one who caused everything to come to a standstill when it comes on to World War II. Oh, it was because of the US why the world did not suffer any longer. If I didn't take the time out and after start reacting to videos and persons from the UK, I gotta give my hats to them, started sending me information, even in my email, say, Island Girl, take a look at this. And watching these videos that they sent for me to react to, and I'm like, I wasn't privy to this either. And I have no shame in my game to say that I wasn't. I didn't know. But now I know better. And I can teach my kids to say, hold up a second. That is not the case. And it is sad and it's crazy that it is okay in the school system here in the US. I never can wrap my head around it. Since I've learned the truth, I can never wrap my head around it.
Good and most other things are bad. I think I was taught all other things are bad. We're also taught that any alternative is evil. There's no nuance. There's no support really for that. There's no actual substantive discussion of facts or the good and bad of any system. In U.S. civics and history, socialism isn't presented as an economic theory or with the pros and cons. It's presented as some kind of slippery slope into a dictatorship or fascism.
Yes.
So when I moved to the UK and saw socialist programs in practice and actually working for the betterment of society, programs like the National Health Service, which, I'll be fair, has its problems, like but it's a socialist concept and it does work. Yes. And when I saw this, I realized that the world hadn't ended and that the British system somehow embracing these socialist concepts actually made its people more free than I was in America. Because they didn't have to worry about dying because they didn't have the money to pay for healthcare. But in the US school system, we're inoculated against these ideas at a very early age. We're taught to fear anything that looks like collective care. The idea of the government should actually help people is framed almost as a threat to your liberty. And it limits your ability to even imagine a different way of running a society other than American capitalism. Number 4 is the good guy myth. This is the idea that America is always...
That's a big one. That's a big one. And it's crazy to me how they look at other countries and say, okay, this is a communist country. But yet still certain things that they implement for the country, it is for the betterment of their citizens. That doesn't mean that they don't have any freedom. That doesn't mean that they don't have any right. But here in America, like she said, don't even think it. Don't even don't even try to accept something like that, because it is so bad. It's a bad omen. It is so bad if we let the government make certain decisions. It is so, they're taking away our freedom, our right to do so. Are you serious? Like she said, the NHS is a major one. And look at it. Yes, like everything, anything you do, it's going to have its flaw, but it is working for the betterment of its citizens there. Yeah, you're going to have problems here and there. It's not perfect. But when you stop to think about certain things that are implemented for the betterment of your citizen, why wouldn't you attempt to do something like that? Why not? The US doesn't see it that way. And I can't sit here and tell her that I can't wrap my mind around it, because I have wrapped my mind around it, because it's always a monetary gain when it comes on to the US. Just like World War II, too, when you think about it. Capital. They can't help it. They can't help it. That's what they strive on.
And historically on the right side of morality. We learn about manifest destiny like it was a heroic trip and not a brutal campaign of displacement and genocide. We learn about the founding fathers being near mythological creatures and not complicated men who actually owned other human beings. When we do bad things, it's treated like a mistake or an anomaly, not a systemic issue. And it's very much whitewashed to look as though it wasn't that big a deal. Wow. As Americans, we rarely learn about the coups we sponsored in Latin America or the Middle East, any of the weapons that we might have sold to the other side, as we mentioned earlier, like World War II with the Nazis. And we're always told that when we intervene, it's to spread democracy. As an adult now living outside of the United States, I start to see that for a lot of the world, America isn't the hero of the story. And that is a really hard pill to swallow when you've spent years, 12 years of your education, coloring in maps where the US is the shiny gold center of the universe. Everybody wants to be like us, and everyone wants to come to the greatest country in the world. Tough thing to reconcile with, I'll tell you that. Next, we have that...
I can see where she's coming from. I feel it for her. You can hear the sincerity in her voice that she tells that how disheartened she is of the fact that that is not the case. And I can't say I fully feel her, but I get it. You know, it's like to be taught something for so long and then to find out that is not the case. It's kind of disheartening to realize or to come to grips with. And I appreciate the fact that she is now saying, listen, I was taught this. I've believed this for so long into my adulthood. And I am accepting the fact that this is not the case right now, because there are a lot of people who will not, even if you tell them and you show them all this, they for a second will not believe. They're going to tell you that you're trying to brainwash them with something else, and you're trying to, what word am I looking for here? You're trying to mar, I guess, the US for what it is. Or there are some people that are stuck in their way and they will not change, even if you put it a bullseye and show them everything. They don't care. What they hold is that's it, and they'll never change, and they don't want to believe anything else. And I'm happy for her that she said, listen, it's sad, but now I know. It's like a veil is lifted from her eyes, because now she knows and she can see. But that's what always boils down to. You can see life different when you step out of one, or you step out of your bubble, or you leave your country. You have different perspectives when it comes on to certain things. You'll be like, Oh my God, this whole time I'm sitting here and this is what I know and this is what I was taught and this is what I've learned. This is what I've taught my kids, only to find out it is not true. That is not the case. See, it's like you're unlearning all of these things and grasping new information, and you can be appreciative for that, or you can be mad about it, or you can just sit down and be in the dark or stay in the bubble that you were in when you were in the US. And I'm glad she's ventured out of that and said, listen, now I know. And it's wild that this is what I was taught. I was not taught in the American school system. So for me, I am not as hurt. But as for my kids who are, I've done my best so far to teach them above what they have been learning in school. So I'm kind of happy that I had take the time out to get on here and start reacting, start looking into certain things, and learn so much over the past few years. I gotta say that. I know I'm being long-winded, but it's just the truth.
Paradox of freedom. This one is a funny one. I don't know if it's funny, maybe funny ironic, or funny, I don't know. You guys can tell me in the comments, but I can tell you that Americans are told constantly that we are the freest people on earth.
Yeah.
The land of the free, home of the brave. It's in our national anthem. It's in almost every poem or song about America. Is definitely included in almost every Hollywood movie about how America saves the world. And yet, our schools are some of the most restrictive environments imaginable.
Yep.
You have to ask permission to use the bathroom. You have hall passes, and you can be denied the hall pass. In some places, you even have metal detectors for walking through the door, and police officers roaming the hallways. Yeah. My child went to a school where there was an armed police officer, a loaded gun and a taser on them at all times, roaming the halls for safety. I mean, come on, right? Like, how can you even fathom that in any other situation in any other country, really? I talk to people here in Europe, and I talk to my child who's now in the UK school system. And while there are rules to follow, there are sometimes restrictions on hall passes and going to the bathroom, it's still somewhat of an open campus.
Yeah.
I mean, my child walks from building to building inside on a big campus. Yes, the campus is safe because it's fenced in and you can only get in certain ways and you have to have a card to open any of the gates, etc. But it's a big open campus for them to roam free from place to place, not a huge building where they have to stay contained forever until the end of the school day. I've been told by some British people and those who live in Europe that their children are even free to walk into town for lunch in some cases. My child takes a public local bus to school and doesn't have to worry about making a specific school bus time, 6 o'clock in the morning before they've barely woken up. In the US, we are treated like potential inmates, all while being lectured about how much freedom we have compared to the rest of the world.
Wow.
It just doesn't make any sense when you break it down. It creates this cognitive dissonance where you believe you're free, even while you're being strictly controlled.
Yeah.
And then you start to develop this thought about the rest of the world was like, well, if I'm not really feeling that free here, but this is the freest place on earth, everywhere else must be positively awful, which is just not the case. Another thing that we tend to learn in our
baby, the free and the greatest country on earth. It's crazy, man. It is so crazy when you look at it, because the kids go through the school door and it's locked. You have to be buzzed in. And sorry, guys. And not only that, there's a cop or a police that is stationed. That's what I found out the other day. With each school, high school, there's like a set of cops that is designated to that school. I've never seen any cop roaming in the school that I've been there, but I've seen the police car out front, just in the parking lot. They're just sitting there looking at their computer doing whatever. But the hall pass, you can't roam from one place to the next. Well, it depends on the state that you're in too, because I just realized The other day I went to by the high school that my son goes to, and I didn't even realize kids could just walk out and head off campus to go get food. That to me, but because I've heard of so much how school is locked down and how restricted it is, and I'm like, oh, you can get a call and say, oh, your kid got hurt or whatever because he didn't return to class or whatever because he left to go to the store to get food, or because I see the kids driving out. I'm like, so when I went to that, they're like, yeah, they're on lunchtime, they're going to buy their lunch or just leaving until lunch is up. They'll be back before it's time to go back to their classes. And I'm like, oh, interesting. I didn't know that because I sent my kid to school. I had no clue that he could walk off of here for lunch and come back on his own. They're like, yeah, they do it. And I'm like, oh, but then I used to think that they're locked in, they can't come off until you come and pick them up, or they're taking the bus, or they're taking public transit to get home. That's not the case here in Alaska. But in other states, yes, metal detectors. Police officer has to be stationed in the school. Once they walk, I know here for the elementary and middle school, the front door are not locked to the middle school that I've been to. You walk right in and head to the office. But for the elementary school, you have to ring a buzzer. State who you are, and then they'll unlock that door to let you in. You can't just waltz up in there as you have nope. If you can't identify yourself, you're not going through that door. So you tell me, how is it free? And yeah, if you were thinking like this, I say, okay, if this is the freest place and we have to behave like this and act like this, Mandy is so right. Outside of the US, it gotta be crazy. Can't be any better than what we know, because as you know, the US is the freest and greatest place on earth. That's what they've been taught.
Our US education is that we basically are groomed to become obsessed with competition.
Yeah.
Where everything in the United States schools is a competition.
Yep.
Who has the highest GPA? Who got the best score on his test? Who is valedictorian? Who gets the scholarship? Who got student of the month on their parents' bumper sticker or whatever BS crap that is? Basically, we're taught that education is a zero-sum game. You have to win. You can't fail. You're either a winner or a loser. There's no in between. There's no real development of the student into a functioning adult with variances, with different perspectives on life, to develop that critical thinking skill at all. It mirrors that hyper-capitalist society that we live in America. We aren't taught to collaborate or help and lift each other up. We're taught to outcompete our neighbors for limited spots in universities. It breeds intense individualism, which is basically what most of us live as under the American flag. You start to view your peers as rivals on every level and every aspect, not just competing for jobs, but everything. And we start to forget that they're actually community members, and we should be working together to build a better community, whether it be at school, whether it be at our neighborhood, whether it be at our jobs. Really, we should be working together. Collaboration should be a given, but in America, it's not. It's frowned upon. And you take that mindset with you into adulthood, and it just starts becoming exhausting because you just don't feel like you have anybody on your side, anyone helping you, and you're doing everything alone all the time. And that there's something inherently wrong with you, or you're weak in some way if you have to ask for help, especially if you have to ask for help from your government. And finally, when you talk about United States school systems, you have to talk about the geographic bubble that we are in. We learn.
Woo! Here we go again. She is spot on. Spot on. It's crazy. The competition between these kids. It's frightening. That's the word I'm gonna use. It's frightening when you see even a simple game that you try to have fun. No, it's a competition between these kids, and that's what they've been taught their whole life. Like she said, student of the month sticker. Listen, man, the GPAs, it's not, there's no community. There's no helping your brother. Some kids are like that. There's a difference, certain kids, certain things when you look at them, their temperament, the way that they behave, and even maybe from the household that they're from, then you can understand why they behave the way that they behave when it comes on to, okay, let me help you out. Oh, mom, guess what? This kid was struggling and I try to help, blah, blah, blah. That's different. But overall, it's a competition from you, the initial stage of you going into kindergarten all the way up. And it's so sad. It is so sad. Straight to the workplace, straight school, college, workplace. It's always a competition. But that's the American society. And it's sickening and it's sad.
United States geography with intense detail. I mean, we learned all our states. We learned capitals of each state. We learned where they are, how they became a state, what times, when on the timeline they became a state. But the rest of the world, just background, just something to make the rest of the map look pretty, as the United States is sitting there right in the middle, I guess.
Yep.
We barely touch on modern world history or current global events unless they directly involve the U.S. or you have a specific class
that
dedicated to that.
Yep.
Usually that's at a college level, if offered at all. The amount of Americans, including myself, who don't know where most countries are is baffling. I still am embarrassed whenever geography comes up because there's a 99% chance I don't even know what country you're talking about. Wow. It keeps you in a bubble. It keeps you thinking that the United States is the center. It keeps you thinking that outside of the United States of America, there's really nothing worthwhile. You don't know what you don't know. And if you don't know, then you won't aspire to know or do better or to have a better system or to copy best practices. Yeah. You assume the American way is the only way because you're literally not exposed to any other way. Now, I want to say I consider myself a fairly intelligent person, and I don't think any of this necessarily makes education that I had in the United States bad. No. Because I would not be as intelligent as I am now without some of that foundation. When you take the indoctrination
makes
part
sense.
Out of it anyway.
Yeah.
But it does explain why Americans seem like they're living in a bubble and why they have no real concept of the world outside of the United States of America. Yep. And when you leave that bubble or the bubble starts to burst, as I feel is part of the reason that America is in the state that it is right now in 2026, you're exposed to a world that you've never really noticed or knew existed before. Mm-hmm. And seeing the world outside of the United States of America feels very disorienting. And I can completely understand that even now in my midlife. And I can't stress enough that while we all need to take control and autonomy over our personal decisions, because as an adult, it is your responsibility to continue to learn and grow. But when you hear some of these things that we are taught
at an early age,
12 years of our life, the most formidable, the most vulnerable moments of our lives, I think you can understand why there's just not as many functioning adults in the United States as you would think.
Yep. Wow. Beautiful video. Well said, Mandy. I'm on board with you with this one 100%. And I love the fact that she said, listen, when you step outside of the US and realize that it's not as what you thought it would be, as worse off than what you thought. It's like you're hit with a brick, like full on. Are you serious? There's drinking water. Are you serious? People are surviving. People are not in debt from medical expenses. People are not in debt from having a tertiary education. The US wasn't the one who won World War II. There were many other countries involved. You understand me? It's like, this can't be the land of the free. This can't be the greatest place on US cannot be the greatest place on earth. There's so much to see and to explore outside of the US. It hurts to know that the younger part of your life, you believe that this is what it is and there's no better than this out there. You know what I mean? So I see where she's coming from. And I guarantee you, if you group 1,000 persons from the US and put them against 1,000 persons from the European region and gave them a geography test, I guarantee you that 99% of the US citizens will fail that geography test. They don't know. Just like Mandy said, listen, you're taught the states, the capital, how they came about, when they, bit by bit, you know the US. You know it. You've been taught from an early age. And like she said, if there's certain things that come up about another country, maybe it's current events and it ties in that US is involved in it, and you learn about that within the class time, but you have to go to college. Not necessarily college. Because in some high school courses, depending on what classes you're taking, you will learn a little bit about the outside world. Let's put it that way. But not much. The little you learn can stay, because I think they need a class designated for that. Especially sometimes they touch on social study classes, or they tie a few stuff in, but I think they should expand. But that's just me. But beautiful video, and she is right. And I hope nobody come in the comment section and bash her. And if you want to bash, because the truth is just the truth, and there's no going around that. It's the Island Girl, and I'm running out of here. Listen to me, man. I think people just need to get up, get out of their bubble, go and explore, and see that there's more out there. There's so much to learn. There's so much to see. There's so much to do. And history is rich from one end of the globe to the next. You know what I mean? This is not the freest and the greatest country on earth. America is not. It's very diverse, yes. It has a lot to offer, yes. Don't get me wrong, I'm not bashing the US. Will never. But there's much more. There's so much more. And what kids are being taught in school, especially history, and how the pledge of... Love you guys to the max. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Be good, be kind, be safe out there. Love each other, and I'll definitely catch you guys in another video. Bye.